Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another session of data structures and algorithms using C++. My name is Dr. Bilal Wajid, and in this lecture we're going to learn how to use the arguments of the main function, or said it a little differently, how can you parse in parameters directly through the command line? Okay? So the main function is the working horse of every C and C++ program. It is the main function that is actually responsible for calling out all of the functions. But you know what? Like any other function, it too has arguments. So how do we use them? And what are they really? Up until now, we've actually been using it integer main, and we're keeping these parentheses empty. But comes out there is not one, but there are two arguments of the main function. The first argument is integer argument c, and it actually holds implicitly the number of elements present in the array. And the second argument is an array by the name of argument v, where each element of this array is a pointer that can point to character type variables. Hence, together they actually can store an array of strings. So let's say there is this program by the name of lecture21.exe. Now this lecture is lecture 21, hence the name lecture21.exe. Now that exe is just an executable extension for Windows. Linux operating systems don't really need a .exe extension. So how can we just pass in arguments directly using the command line? Okay, so let's say we change the program to lecture 21 Bilal and 80. Now if you're using the main function in this format, we can actually now use Bilal and 80 as inputs to our main function. So because notice there are three arguments here, lecture 21 is one argument, Bilal is another, and 80 is another. So there are three arguments, and they're actually stored, all of them, into our array here. So 0, because it's an array and of size 3, the index starts from 0 and ends at 2. So the first element here is actually stored in the 0th index. The second element here is stored in the index number 1. And the third element here is stored in index number 2. Now it's worthwhile to remind us that all these three arguments are strings, even our number 80. So you can actually store them separately. So you can just declare a string a, and then you'll notice if a has been assigned has been initialized to argument v0, and we print a, we'll have the name of the program getting printed. If we do the same for argument v1, we'll see that the name gets printed, and we can do the same for argument 2, v2, and we'll see 80 gets printed. But remember, right, string a, it's not a number. A is a string 80. So the first thing you should do when you try using the main arguments or the main function, the arguments of the main function, is that you should check if the program which is being run by the user is being run properly. So a good way of doing that is using the try, throw, and catch block. So if the user doesn't provide three arguments like lecture 21 Bilal 10, then you should help the user by telling him, listen, this is what I need. So if the arguments are not three, you should throw an exception and tell the user, listen, the program has three parameters, blah, 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 and this is an example. Now, if the user does give you three inputs, then you should run the program. In the first case, you need to convert this 10 into a number, because the example that I'm using here really prints this string, whatever that string is, these many number of times. Okay? So you're going to use the string stream ss. Now this is part of the string package. So whenever you start a program, you usually write include IOStream. And then the second would be to use the string package. So the string stream SS, once you made this string, you can pass it in this argument v2, and then you can pass it directly to an integer tor. And by this simple trick, you can convert a string to an integer. Now, once you have the integer, you can just use it and print this argument v1 that many number of times, because argument v1 in this case is Bilal. Okay? Now, as an example, let's try to see the code first. So this is the code that I have. Okay? Now, here is my catch block. It's a little lengthier in the sense it makes it look nicer, because you're telling the user, okay, listen, I need 3 arguments, so please do put in 3 arguments. And this is really tells you, okay, this is the name of the program, this is what we are trying to print, and we want to print it these many times. And then this is what we just explained right now, right? This is our string. Now, when I run this program, let's say I'm trying to run this program here. So if I run this, let's say just without giving it any arguments except the lecture itself, it doesn't do anything. It says now this program requires 3 parameters: the name of the program, the name of the person you want to print, and the number of times, and then it gives an example. But let's say you run this program again, not giving it 3 but 2 arguments. So let's say 50. Well, again, it does the same thing. It says, sorry, I am expecting 3 arguments. So let's try running this again. This time you write, let's say, not Bilal, but let's say you write Wajid, and you print it 11 times. Now you see, well, let's start the program, the name of the program, the name you want to print, the number of times you want to print, and then it prints it that many times, right? So I hope you like this video. We actually discussed an extremely important principle, and it really helps make the program very powerful. And you would be using this extensively in the lectures that we follow. Okay? So I hope you like the lecture. If you like the lecture, do give the like video, and subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notified for new videos. Thank you very much. Up until next time. Bye-bye.